Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Grice. I'm the host for your Adapt production show today. And I have one of my colleagues, Cate Readling. She's with the People's Lobbies campaign. And we're going to be talking about some issues that pertain to persons with disabilities and seniors. And Cate, my first question to you is, can you give us an overview of when the People's Lobbies campaign organization started?
Yes, thanks, Michael. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Chicago has a very rich and long history of organizing, as I'm sure you and your audience are very well aware. And the People's Lobby came into existence around 10 years ago with the economic crisis. People began to organize around how we were going to get control over out of control corporate finance. And as you saw at our membership meeting last month, the history of beginning with the Coalition of Fair Economy Illinois and the initiation of the March to Springfield, that came out of the People's Lobby. So our organization is part of a national coalition with People's Action. I think that's a really big part of how we are able to be so successful, is that we work in collaboration with other organizations, not just in Chicago, but all across the country. The People's Lobby is a grassroots organization that organizes both in issues and in geography. So we have bases and members all over Chicago, from the south suburbs out to the western suburbs and even into DuPage County. And we organize around issues including the Pretrial Fairness Act getting passed, CEJA, the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and the implementation of that through our environmental justice cohort, the Gig Alliance. We organize with gig drivers and gig workers in order to make sure that they have living wages and safe working environment. And then, of course, the work that you and I have been doing together with the Healthcare Task Force.
And how is the People's Lobby campaign, how are the committees structured?
So that's a great question. The way that our organization works is that you could live anywhere and have a special interest in a certain issue. So I organize with the People's Lobby out of Oak Park, where I live, but I also organize on the Healthcare Task Force. So people are able to find ways into the work. Often they come through electoral. We are a C3 and a C4 organization. We have two separate boards. And that allows us to do electoral work and invite people into organizing through elections and electoral work. and then finding your space or your place in the issue that you care the most about, which for me is healthcare.
And my next question, can you give an overview of what happened when the People's Lobby Campaign and other coalitions about a year ago did an action at Blue Cross Blue Shield headquarters?
Absolutely. So through our affiliation with People's Action, I was able to learn about a campaign called Care Over Cost, which you can find more information about at careovercost.org. And that campaign is built to both support people with immediate attention for if they're experiencing a medical claim denial, which 700,000 people a day in the United States are, as well as building power and organizing us into the massive force of people and money that it's going to take to win dignified health care for all people. Part of that campaign is also an arc of action, because we know that gigantic corporations are not going to just do what 1 or 10 or 100 of us ask, that it's going to take an exposure on a large scale of what's actually happening for more people to learn that we're not alone and that we shouldn't feel isolated or shame about not being able to get the health care we want, or about having medical debt or getting bills that we didn't expect. So part of that was last October, a national effort in several cities. Chicago was a major one of those cities. We did a direct action, and we included several organizations, including Citizen Action, Illinois, Physicians for a National Health Plan, Be a Hero, of course, the People's Lobby, and One North Side were the lead organizations putting that effort together. We created a die-in in the lobby at Blue Cross Blue Shield to draw attention to the number of people that are getting claim denials. Part of building power, too, is inviting elected officials to participate in these events. And of course, having speakers like yourself to be out in front of that building and inviting press to make sure that the word is getting out, and that we are demonstrating that we are not going to sit at home and be isolated and alone, that we are going to find each other and build power and bring the fight to the corporations that are denying our care.
Okay, my next question is, how would you what would you say would be the best way for people with disabilities to be more engaged with the People's Lobby?
I am really glad that you asked that, Michael, because I think actually the first step is the organization itself, making sure that it's prioritizing accessibility and inclusion. To that end, we have a large public meeting coming up on October 6th, and we aim to get 300 to 500 people together and invite elected officials and have some accountability happening in this meeting, like our 2017 meeting that you saw the pictures about at our membership meeting in June. One of the ways that we fight together is that we prioritize including people with disabilities in the planning for these events and the planning for our campaigns. For example, how are we inviting the disability community into the healthcare task force? How are we making those meetings accessible by time, by location, by being able to join remotely? I will be the first one to admit that our organization, like many organizations, has room to grow in doing that work. But I know that we're moving in the right direction because I have people like you collaborating with me and with my organization to make sure that we are prioritizing accessibility. That will be my lead role in planning for this public meeting.
Now you bring up this big meeting in October the 6th. Has there been any talk about what the agenda may be?
Absolutely. What we want to do is highlight the different areas of work that the People's Lobby is doing and has been doing, so that people can see themselves in that work, whether they care the most about transportation, which is what our environmental justice team is working on, or they care the most about access to dignified health care, or they care the most about protecting the Pretrial Fairness Act, or organizing as gig workers. The fact of the matter is, all of those issues are issues that are about human rights, and that should be including people with disabilities. People with disabilities are gig workers, are drivers. People with disabilities need safe, clean, reliable public transportation. People with disabilities need health care. And people with disabilities who are experiencing incarceration absolutely need to have the support and attention and prioritization. So if we're centering that relationship and making sure that our conversations are starting with that, then we'll be making accommodations that are going to meet all people's needs.
Okay. I know one of the issues that are constantly brought up in the disability movement is access to information. And what I mean by that is a lot of people with disabilities and seniors don't have access to the internet. So how is your organization going to reach those people that may not have good internet service to learn about this big meeting in October?
Well, one of the things that we will do is to follow your lead in the conversations that we've had when we've met about making plans, to make sure that we are going out to communities and communicating in ways with flyers, with personal visits, with outreach in the ways that the disability community and the senior community is receiving information, rather than expecting them to just get things the way that we put it out there, making sure that we are making our information available in the ways that they typically and most easily receive information.
Because there's a saying in the disability movement, nothing about us without us.
Absolutely.
And we definitely want to be at the table more and more. And that's one of my goals. And I know that that's one of your goals. So that's why I brought that up.
Absolutely. Our movement cannot be as strong as it needs to be if we are not including people with disabilities and seniors. It just can't.
And I do know that one of the issues that have come up lately is the difficulty in dealing with hospitals when it comes to a patient being discharged. They automatically want to discharge that person to a nursing home. And what's your take on a situation in that regards?
So those stories are far too common, and I'm brought back to the fact that organizing is the way to mitigate any of those negative ramifications. For example, if someone's being put out and they don't have an advocate and they don't have a connection to an organization or they don't have family around to advocate for them, they're much more likely to have an adverse outcome versus being part of a collective and part of an organization that is making sure that people know their rights, that's making sure that all of us know what to expect and what to demand for care, and that we have each other to rely on for making sure that each of us is safe. That is what organizing is. It's about being part of a collective.
But as I know, and a large portion of our audience knows, that there are gatekeepers such as the managed care companies.
Yes.
So how can we attempt to come to the table and get our voices heard in that regards?
Well, what we started the conversation with was about our direct action in October, right? And that is part of a larger plan for how we continue to make sure that our voices are heard. So United Healthcare, for example, is the 4th or 5th largest corporation in the country, much less in healthcare. And they also own almost every aspect of the healthcare system, including the managed care organizations, including the pharmacy benefit managers, including the all of the gatekeepers, and many of the hospitals and doctors groups as well. So the only way to combat that, because their earnings announced for the second quarter was $8 billion. So the only way we could combat that kind of behemoth company that is predicated on keeping as much money as possible and providing as little care as possible is if we collectively continue to organize and advocate. And by being at the table, then the concerns of the specific experiences of people with disabilities are the priorities and the demands of those companies.
Well, that's a pretty much extensive view, but there are also other issues that encompasses that, and one of them is for an example, one is SNAP
benefits.
SNAP benefits. I've been asked by my own physicians to improve the quality of my health. I need to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, and I've told my physicians several times that with the amount of SNAP I get, that's not possible.
Right.
Because the minute we get a raise in something, another program or service is going to be decreased.
Right.
So can the people lobbyists help in any way with the situation in that regards?
I think what you're describing is a massive systemic issue
Yeah.
that is going to require really, really legislative changes. I think in the immediate, again, organizing and being part of a collective means that we communicate with each other, and I'm able to say, Michael, I know that Rush Hospital has a dietitian and a food service program that will help provide food for you and for other people. And they would love to be doing that for more people, but not enough people know about how to use it or how to engage. So if we are communicating with each other and we know what each other needs, then we can find the ways to plug all those pieces together. There is enough. I believe in abundance. I know there is enough. I also know that corporations are literally writing the laws that are keeping us from either accessing what we need or getting enough to survive and not, get some and then lose others. So we have to be doing both. We have to be collaborating with each other in making sure that all of the resources are being utilized, and we also have to organize and make sure that we're writing legislation that's going to change those laws to make sure to keep people safe, to make sure to get people out of nursing homes if we can, to make sure that PAs are getting paid a living wage, to make sure that people can stay in their homes when they want to, and to make sure that people are getting the dietary needs that they require. All of that is absolutely possible. We know that.
And my last issue is, we know that transportation is a huge issue in the disability community and also for seniors. Because I pretty much take paratransit everywhere I need to go when I'm able to take it. But it needs to, there needs to be a lot of changes. And again, I would say that that's one of the issues that really hinder people with disabilities and seniors from being active in their communities.
Well, transportation is part of healthcare. If I can't get to my doctor's appointments, I can't be healthy. If I can't get to my job and earn the living wage that I deserve, then I can't buy healthy groceries and pay for my medications or my prescriptions. So all of healthcare is the flip side of every issue.
Yep.
And I think that what I see, the changes that I see happening in transportation is really about transparency. And I hope that we are all working towards, I know the People's Lobby does specifically have an environmental justice team that is working on transit issues about accessibility and reliability and affordability. So those go hand in hand. I need to be able to reliably get somewhere, and I need to make sure that I can get there if I'm in a wheelchair, that I can use the public transportation, and that paratransit is reliable. I've even seen myself how unreliable that can be and how expensive it can be for very silly reasons. For example, going to an event in the Cook County Forest Preserve and not being able to use paratransit because it doesn't have a street address. It was a very bizarre experience to go through that process with someone in a wheelchair that I was trying to work with to participate in an event in Cook County. So I think that, to your point, that raising our voices and collectivizing our voices and making sure that we are saying these things over and over again, and that we're saying them to the right people. We know, as organizers, we know that we have the power of the people, and we need to be saying it to the ones in power who can make the changes to make paratransit affordable and reliable, and to make sure that I can get to my job and get to my grocery store and get to my doctor's appointments.
Who would be the best contact for our audience to reach out to if they are interested in getting involved with the People's Lobby?
I would love to hear personally from anybody that's interested in getting involved with the People's Lobby. We also have a website, thepeopleslobby.org, and I'm happy to share my my email address, creadling@gmail.com, and my phone number, 704-906-8347. It's out there all over the world already anyway.
All right, Cate, I'd like to thank you for this interview. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Me too. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. That's a wrap.